Hello, I'm Mr. Michael Burke. I'm your instructor for English 201-210, Introduction to Fiction. This is one of my favorite courses, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I've been teaching this particular course for about 7 years now, and this semester I changed about a third of the stories, in part to offer some more contemporary fiction, and in part to reorganize it so that we maybe focus in a little bit different way than I've done in the past. So I hope this works out for you. What I want to show you today is how to get into Blackboard, how to find the course, and what kinds of information you're going to find on our Blackboard site. If you've never taken an online course before, one of the things that's difficult, I think, for students at first is to work completely on their own. We don't have any designated meeting times. Instead, we have, activities that have to be done by certain days and certain times. But I think once we get into the groove of the course, you're going to find it pretty easy. You're on your own a lot, but that's helpful because you can schedule when you want to participate. But remember that you can always reach out to me with any questions that you have, and I'll talk about the different ways to do that. So if you haven't had a chance to get to the course yet, you click on current students in the college website. You go down to where it says Blackboard, click on that. You'll see a screen that looks like this. All the courses that you're enrolled in will populate to the left. My screen looks a little different because I'm an instructor, but I'll turn this over to a view that looks like the student view here as soon as we get the course open. You click on 201-210. Here's the announcement page. I'm going to turn it to the student preview just so it'll look like what it looks like when you log in. Okay. You'll see a welcome message. This is pretty much the same as the email that I sent out to you a week or so ago. And I've listed down here how to get in touch with me. This is something that I hope you take advantage of. Like I said, we don't have any daily classes, but there are times when I'm available, when I'm guaranteed to be able to respond to questions that you have. There's two basic ways to do that. One is to email me, and I can email you back. Another way is to join Remind, and if you see at the very bottom of the handout, you'll see a little piece of paper, a little PDF that'll explain how to sign up for Remind. I'll talk about that in a second. And then during office hours, these are what you might call asynchronous. You can do this at any time, and I'll get back to you. But I'm guaranteed to be available Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 8 to 10 and 11 to 12, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9:30 to 11 and 12:30 to 1:30. And you can always email me or text me and make an appointment if those hours don't work for you. These are hours that I'm guaranteed to be available. And if you want to talk to me on a phone, you can call me if you want, although I've had very few students do that. Or you can click on this Blackboard Collaborate link, and I will be there. It'll be open. You can dial in, as you can see, with these phone numbers, or you can just click on this link, and I will be there. I'll be available. I'll just be sitting here waiting for you to call me and let me know that you have a question. And this will be like a video chat that we can do. Okay, we can have multiple students in there at one time, so if 2 or 3 of you want help at the same time, or you have similar questions, you're welcome to do that. And you can also talk to each other through this link as well. Okay, so I won't open it because it takes a little bit of time, but you're welcome to email me, or I'm sorry, access this during these hours. That's when I'll be available. Okay, this is the Remind instructions that I talked about. It's a free texting app. Probably some of you have used it when you were in high school. Maybe you've used it in other courses, or you've used it if you were on a sports team when you were in school. A lot of places use it. It's a free app where we can text each other without knowing each other's cell phone number. And I use this quite frequently. The nice thing is that I can send a query to your phone. You can send a query to my phone and say, hey, I don't see something graded, or there's a link that's not working, or I can't figure out what you want me to say here in this part, or whatever. But this explains that process. You get out your smartphone, you take this little RMD business, you type it into your browser. You click enter and it should automatically load. If it doesn't, try just this 72G 7429 stuff and see if that gets you in there, and then follow the instructions that'll be in your phone. And I'll get a notice that you've signed up for this. Like I said, it lets me text you, it lets me text the entire class, it lets you text each other one at a time. I think it might even let you text the class as a whole, but I'm not sure about that. But it's a way to get in touch with people if you have questions. Okay, so I encourage people to sign up for that. It's not required, but I think it can be helpful to you. Okay, let's go back to the Blackboard site. And I've set things up pretty much the same way all the way through. The syllabus and the schedule are posted here. I've already sent you a copy of the syllabus, but if you've lost it or you can't find it in your phone, you'll always find it here in Blackboard. Okay, and here the whole document is here. The scheduling part is here, and basically what you have is some number of tasks each week to do. Normally there's a quiz, normally there's one discussion board. So there's a lot of reading that you have to do. And then if you do the reading, then you can take the quiz and then answer the discussion board. And the schedule over here on the right-hand side will tell you which discussion board is due on what days. Discussions boards are almost always Thursday, Sunday tasks, where you make a post by Thursday night and then you respond to 2 other people's posts by Sunday night. Usually the quiz is due on Thursday as well. So you've got like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to read the stories, and then Thursday to think about them, take the quiz, write your post, and then spend a couple of days looking at what other people have said, and then respond to their post by Sunday. Okay, that's kind of the schedule. Where do you get all this stuff? Well, you go to course content. And inside of course content, you'll see it's organized by folders. I have only the first 2 weeks done because a lot of work that I did with this was lost when we did an upgrade of Blackboard a week and a half ago, and so I'm slowly reassembling that. And I'll only open weeks when they're complete. But anyway, for the first 2 weeks, I'm asking you to introduce yourselves and then to read some material in our textbook at the back of it that talks about 10 different critical approaches to literature, and then to apply one of those critical approaches to one of 3 stories that I've selected. So inside this area, the first thing you'll see are the 3 discussion boards. The first one asks you to introduce yourself, and I noticed today that a couple of students have already done this. Okay. And then down below that, you'll see some information about critical approaches to literature, both some slides that I have and what we call Old Miss Quick and Dirty Definitions. This is an article from the University of Mississippi about these definitions. And then I have a video that I've made on critical approaches to literature. This runs about 30 minutes and it's a little boring, but I think you might find it interesting. This is some supplementary material on critical schools. These are just ways to look at literature, whether you're a feminist, you're a psychological critic, you're a gender critic, you're a sociological critic, and so on. So they're just different ways to look at stories. Okay. Then you'll see a short quiz, and there's a quiz each week. The quizzes can be taken as many times as you want, and they're designed just to reinforce what you've read and remind you about what's important. So after you do the introductory discussion board, then you read through the material, take the quiz, fill out the second discussion board, and this is due by Thursday, the 3rd of September. This is one of the rare things when you've got 2 things to do on the same day. And then there's a third discussion board that asks you to apply one of these critical schools to a story. And that has to be complete, both the post and the responses to others, by the 6th of September. And I've asked you to pick from one of these 3 stories. Ernest Hemingway's A Clean, Well-Lighted Place. The second is Margaret Atwood's story, Happy Endings. And the third option here is Eudora Welty's Why I Live at the P.O. or Post Office. These stories are all in your textbook, but some of you may not have the textbook yet, so I've provided links to the texts here in the Blackboard section. Down below that are some supplementary items that you might want to take a look at if you get interested in the author, or you get interested in the story and you want to know more. These are places that you can go for that. Okay. The way I've set this thing up with discussion board, content, quiz, discussion board, that's what all of your weeks are going to look like. For every other week, except for these first two, you're going to have one discussion board and one quiz. This is the only exercise or the only part of the course where you have like 3 discussion boards in 2 weeks. Normally, I don't do that. Okay. So that's how the course is designed. There's a discussion board and a quiz, and those have points associated with them. There's 3 short papers, and those have points associated with them, and there's a final exam. And I'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. The last thing I wanted to mention at this point is the course textbook. And that is this, The Art of the Short Story. I've used this book for several years in teaching this particular course. Many of the stories that we deal with will come from this textbook. It's been around for a long time. There's carloads of used copies. You can buy it through our bookstore. The most this is going to cost you is $19.95. It depends on where you buy it from. But there's plenty of used copies because there's only ever been this one edition. There's no e-text for this. You can find the stories, many of the stories, online, but you can't find all of them. And so I recommend you spend whatever it is it's going to cost to buy the textbook. That also gives you all the critical stuff that's in the back of the textbook that is the subject of the first 2 weeks worth of exercises. So this is worth buying. Okay. In addition to the short stories that are in the textbook, we're not going to read all of them. There's 53, I think, or 52, I'm sorry. And in addition to those, I've got about half a dozen stories from the New Yorker that are contemporary, written in the last 2 or 3 years. And my notion is that we'll have works that are considered kind of classic or canonical works, that is, works that get studied in English classes. And we'll also have new works to take a look at. So those are 2 of the 3 sources for the stories that we're going to be reading. You may have noticed in the syllabus that there's a list of novels, and I will get that set up and send a video out about that when it's time. But we're going to spend about a week, maybe a week and a half, on one book that you choose. And we'll choose that book in week 4, and then we'll take a look at it in week, I think, 12 or 13. The objective here of the whole course is to develop a set of standards by which we can make judgments about literature and say, this is worth being studied, this is something we should retain and look at in literature courses like this, this is part of our cultural heritage, this is part of our understanding of ourselves as human beings, which is some of the reasons why we study literature at all. And then what works we might say, nah, I don't think these make the cut. And so we have to develop some standards for that. And that's really what the course is about. Specifically, those criteria are things that you're going to develop for the final exam. And I'll make a little video that talks about that later on. But at this point in the course, I just want to make sure that everybody knows where to go, that you start with the Blackboard material, you go to the course content area, you start with weeks 1 and 2, and you start completing the discussion boards, the readings, the quiz, and you get those tasks done during the first 2 weeks. Okay, I'll send out another video in a week or so to kind of explain what's going to happen next. But at this point, I think this gives you more than enough to get started. I'm looking forward to meeting you all online in one way or another. Please feel free to get in touch with me if you have questions, and I'll try to keep things as straight as I can. I know sometimes an online course can get confusing, and I frankly can be very confusing myself, and I'll try to be as clear and direct as I can be. But if I ever confuse you, don't wait for a miracle. Let me know that I've said something or posted something that doesn't make any sense so that I can fix it. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to meeting you all.